Welcome to the Hard Faith podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Fulmar, the founder of Hard Faith. I've been working in the film and television industry for over 16 years. On Hard Faith, we're about asking difficult questions about life and faith in an R-rated world. And today we have filmmaker, director, writer, Sam Sorich. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sam, we got connected at Hard Faith Fest Year 2 back in 2024. And your film, 8 Beats Anthology, which was a collection of short films that was made into a feature film based on the Beatitudes, won Top Audience Award and was one of the top contenders for feature film. Tell us about how you found about Hard Faith and what your experience was like at the Hard Faith Film Festival last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I learned about Hard Faith because I was working on a documentary and I was putting that into festivals. We never put 8 Beats into festivals, but it lined up so much with what we were trying to do with 8 Beats. So, kind of a Christian audience, but also not, overtly Christian, or at least not coming from a strong Christian background, but trying to make films at a high level and tell stories that maybe just aren't mainstream or family friendly per se, but yeah, just trying to engage our Catholic, or from our filmmakers, it was mostly Catholics, and trying to engage the Catholic imagination and make films based on that. So, but I saw Hard Faith, and I thought this is a great festival to meet like-minded filmmakers and to get 8 Beats out there, which has been a long journey. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. And then I've even kept up with some of the filmmakers I met there. So it's like, even just having that, I think it's it's so worth it to be together and to see each other's work and to form relationships outside of that. I just met with Brad Alexander yesterday. Once you're face to face, and we do a lot of this stuff on Zoom and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but there's something about being together in the same room or getting coffee together that you can't replace, and that's what I've been. Communities like yours are just gold for that reason. Yeah.
I love that. And I know at the time you were living in Colombia, and so you made the international trip to Hard Faith Fest, which I really appreciated. And right now you're in California. Can you tell our audiences a little bit about what you're working on currently and what you're doing, what the future holds for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Chicago, but I married my wife 10 years ago, and she's from Colombia. And we've been moving almost like every year. We've kind of had this lifestyle where, not on purpose, but in order to, pack up everything and move down there and spend time with her family, we just never had settled in a place. But we moved to Colombia for a whole year so I can work on my film that I called Things Hidden: The Life and Legacy of René Girard. And that's a documentary about a French intellectual that's kind of doing really well on YouTube right now. And basically I had to go down to Colombia to spend the whole year to finish that film. And again, yeah, when I saw trying to put that film into festivals and seeing Hard Faith, got up to California to meet you guys. And I think it was also in that trip that I met with a fellow filmmaker who was a director on one of the 8 Beat shorts. His name is George Simon, and he's a professor at JP Catholic, which is a Catholic film school in Escondido. And they said, hey, there's a position open. Do you want to come out here and teach? So for the last year, I've been teaching film, and that's just been a great experience. Yeah.
Man, I love that. I've had the opportunity I taught one quick inter-session course at my college, Grove City College. It was only a 2-week course, but I love working with the youth, the next generation. Find it super inspiring. What's this year been like for you, and how has it inspired you as a filmmaker and as an artist working with the students?
Yeah, it's been really good because, the last 4 years being an independent filmmaker, especially in a directorial role where a lot of it is pre-production and you're only so much of the time is on set and you're meeting people. So most of it is a pretty isolated experience if you're a filmmaker. So if your audience would know that.
Yeah.
And so being in a teaching role where you're getting FaceTime face to face and in a mentorship role, like it is a it was a welcome change for all those years of just like grinding it out behind the computer.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so I think yeah, I was able to, so I taught mimetic theory, which is related to my Rene Girard documentary. I taught documentary and I taught horror film. And so that was it was cool to do some deep dives that I haven't done in a while.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, that's awesome. Tell me, let's go back to 8 Beats. Tell me how that project came together. I know you and I talked about it, but could you share a little bit with our audience how this team of filmmakers, it was 8, right? 8 separate
Yep.
short films made into a feature film. How did you corral all these artists to come together into one unified feature film? And also just for, I don't know if 8 Beats is available online anywhere, but 8 Beats, I reviewed some of the footage in the film from Film Freeway, reviewing it in anticipation of our talk today. But that is just such a visually stunning and bold film. I mean, it really is. And your short film is the final short film in the collection of short films. And it's surreal, and it's bold, and it's Christian, and it's provocative. I mean, and all the shorts are. So how did this project come about? How did you rein it all together? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, so it kind of goes all the way back to when I was making films, growing up, just on like VHS tapes and sometimes 8mm and stuff like that. I had a religious kind of conversion, or I had a conversion back to my faith in high school. And so instead of going the film making route, which I was kind of on track to do, I kind of did a 180 and went to Catholic seminary to become a priest.
Wow.
And but it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right fit. It was very traumatic in some ways. I didn't really like jive with the culture. It was a little kind of too rigorous. And at the same time, I'd come from this artistic background, and not being able to express kind of artistically, or I didn't feel like I felt a little bit alienated. But the one place that I found kind of solace during this time of this kind of this tension between, I wanted to become a priest, but at the other end, I couldn't give over my personality. I found refuge instead of the chapel, which I should have been going to, I went to the library and watched cinema like for hours a day, so like 3 or 4 films a day for years.
Wow.
And so I had this deep dive into cinema as almost an escape, but also a secondary education and a formation and a spiritual formation. So it was interesting that at seminary I kind of ended up losing my faith and becoming an atheist, but it was also a very rigorous time for getting what like cinema is trying to do, and seeing what cinema can do.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually came back to my faith through the work of Rene Girard and others. So there I also, one of my roommates' name was another seminarian who kind of had a similar journey. His name was Anthony D'Ambrosio, and we had collaborated together on some art projects. And afterwards, we kind of like separated for a few, maybe only like a year between coming back and like working together again. But at the time, he was working on something called Catholic Creatives, and it was bringing together marketers and artists and literary people and filmmakers all across the United States. And they had this summit in 2017, and it was really like a really exciting moment. So that's where the idea for 8 Beats became a reality, because I'd seen, so during my time in seminary, I one of the films that I watched that really impressed me was The Decalogue by Koslowski,
Yeah.
and which is basically an omnibus. Well, it's an anthology of the 10 Commandments, and he's an atheist director, but in some ways he makes some very Christian, or even some of the best I would say Christian cinema. And it's partly because the writer I think Piesowitz, he also he owes his screenwriting to Rene Girard. So there's another connection there. Yeah,
All roads lead.
those roads through Girard, and so yeah, so I saw the Decalogue and I thought, well, an obvious, like sequel to this would be, an anthology on the Beatitudes, and 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 a lot of people had this idea, including some people that I eventually met at the Catholic Creatives and others who came onto the project later. Basically, like this idea of short films based on the Beatitudes was already kind of out there, that people were almost working on and making it. So the fact that strangers from across, came together and had the same idea, it was kind of like we had to make this movie. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And fun too, the connection with the Catholic, what was it called? Catholic Creatives?
Yeah, Catholic Creatives, yeah.
And your fellow seminarian?
Yep.
Now, he won this year Best Feature Film.
Oh, no way.
Triumph of the Heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, which is an amazing, beautiful film about a Catholic saint during the Holocaust.
Yeah.
That is having its theatrical release, I think, now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's amazing. I missed Hard Faith this year. I would have gone, but I'm not on social media or anything, so it lost the radar. But I'm glad that Anthony won. Yeah,
Anthony did win, and that movie is amazing. Yeah, and it sounded like it was a big process making that film. Like even just like the behind the scenes and the fundraising and everything else. I'm so glad that they had a theatrical release and released through AMC, and I hope it has a lot of success.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and go out there and buy it, see it in theaters.
And see your documentary on YouTube, Things in the Life and Legacy of Rene Girard. So as someone who converted into the Protestant tradition, tell me, why are Catholics so much better at art than Protestants?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know.
Scorsese, even Coppola. Why are yourself, Anthony? Tell me, what do you think it is that Catholics aren't afraid of art? Because Protestants often are, I find, from my own tradition. But Catholics are they're bold. What is it, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I would make a polemic between Protestants and Catholics, just in the spirit of ecumenism and the fact that I do get a lot of inspiration from Protestants and their lived faith and everything. But I am deeply steeped in the Catholic imagination,
right,
which is, it focuses on the concrete and the real and the sacramental. So if you kind of look at where Protestantism and Catholicism diverge, it's kind of like this understanding of kind of how God shows up into nature and what's the relations between nature and supernature, the supernatural. So whereas Catholics have relics and saints and incense and singing and all this stuff, which is deeply embodied religious sensibility, that kind of goes away, especially in the early Reformation, as either superstitious or demonic in some senses. But I think it's been 500 years since the Reformation. We've kind of intermarried enough as a culture that there's many ways that we've borrowed from each other. And but I think there is a real Catholic sensibility in the sacramental, and that's what sticks out. And in many ways, that's what keeps me Catholic, is that I think that that tradition of art, of literature, and hopefully filmmaking eventually, we can raise we can say something indeed about God through art, from the specifically Catholic sensibility of things.
And it feels like to me, and I'm sure you've pondered this or reflect on this yourself, but there's a lot of parallels between, I would say, like you and Scorsese. Obviously, the art you make is very different, but he was considering becoming a priest, went to seminary, became a filmmaker. Catholic, has embraced his Catholicism and his Catholic art more as his life and his career has matured.
Yeah.
But is there other Catholic filmmakers that you look up to or inspired by?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit in the American, history of cinema. There's also a lot in the European cinema. So, like, a lot of people point to, which I haven't seen enough of his films, but like Eric Romer,
Mm.
and a lot other French and Italian. You get a lot of, if not directly Catholic, at least like steeped in that culture, and Spanish as well. So even like people like Louis Brunel, or Buñuel, are basically anti-Catholic. They can't stop using the symbolism, and so you kind of they're giving a critique to the church in a way that is in some ways still Catholic adjacent. And they're amazing filmmakers. But like even like say Mel Gibson or something like that, as like on a mainstream level, you can see Catholic sensibility there. And what is Catholic sensibility? It's like I said earlier, like that the embodied world is also says something about the mind of God, that God reveals himself in nature as almost as in an icon. And so grace and even in the opposite of grace, the turning away from grace or evil manifests itself kind of in these spaces of reality, like physical spaces, always physical, always concrete, always about the human drama. And so like there's a good book that's really, there's a good book by William Lynch. It's called Christ and Apollo. And I think he does this great, he's a Jesuit priest, but he kind of puts it very, his main argument is that what separates the Christic imagination versus the Apollo imagination, say of the Greek, of a pagan imagination, is this concentration of the concrete, that you can't just go to the dream world right away.
Yep.
To show God. It has to be embodied and lived in history and time and place, and then you get to God. It has to be Christ spitting into the mud and then putting it on the blind man to heal. It's a type of magic. And so like even, I think this is coming back into kind of the forefront of the Catholic imagination conversation, is that like a re-enchanting of the world, that we've gone a while into this, relying a lot on our modern sensibilities and scientism to explain reality, but whether or not that is the fullness of reality is kind of what's kind of breaking into the zeitgeist in many ways. So like, for instance, my new film is on UFOs.
Yeah.
And I think this is
which is amazing. I watched the trailer,
Yeah.
and I am so intrigued, and I can't wait to watch the whole feature-length film.
Yeah, man. I'm really in this. Basically that's what I'm trying to explore, is kind of like the Catholic imagination and how it can offer a way of interpreting reality that I think we don't have the tools for, as long as we remain kind of secular reductionists.
Tell us more about your new project. I watched the trailer. For me, it is for what I saw. There's wrestling with, is there extraterrestrial life? Do UFOs exist? If that is true, how do we reconcile that with our faith?
Yep. Yeah, so this has been a topic that's been explored by a lot of people, not really in a documentary form. So I'm happy to like kind of ride the wave of kind of this cultural conversation. It's a new watershed moment in terms of like disclosure in the government, of hearings happening, whistleblowers coming out about that the U.S. government has been hiding a program in which they study unidentified phenomena, and sometimes that means nuts and bolts craft, and sometimes that just means basically the paranormal. And if anyone tells you what it is, they probably don't know what it is. Like, it's such a messy area. But my Catholic perspective, even then, it's kind of a fragmented space, because a lot of people just say, oh, it's just demonic, or maybe there are extraterrestrial beings, or they're they're like cryptoterrestrials. They've been here for a long time. They either co-evolved with us, or they've come, given the scale and timing of the universe, 13.8 billion years, that would be enough for a civilization to advance and come here or whatever. So the sky's the limit in terms of possibilities of things. But we're so you kind of have to ask, how do we come down? How do we make sense of this data I would think the first thing to point out is like it does seem to be a shift in tone about the topic, that it's not just a fringe idea anymore, but enough data suggests that that it's a real phenomenon. We just don't know what it is. And again, so my documentary is exploring the ways in which the Vatican may be involved in terms of like a spaceship crashed in 1933 Magenta, Italy. So I'll be going to Italy in a few weeks to kind of get the ground scoop on that, and who knows? But yeah, it's a wild topic. But really, what really gets me is that I kind of say this to people, is like, preach the gospel, and if necessary, talk about aliens, because the subject kind of brings these.
Is that gonna be your tagline?
I don't know. It's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like how I've been approaching it, which is like when you address this topic to people, a lot of people end up saying, "Oh yeah, I've had some type of anonymous experience or whatever," or they're just interested because of their algorithm tells them to be interested in it.
Yeah.
Or but for me, I think what's interesting about it is kind of how how traditional kind of doctrines of say Catholic theology are opened up to it. So for instance, like the incarnation, like would there have to be multiple incarnations if there are other creatures on other planets in order to combine the God human? They're not human, so Jesus Christ, saving work, does it, and there's many theories on this, and obviously the church doesn't have an official stance. So, but seeing how capacious that the Catholic imagination can be about the topic, I think it also just like it pumps the intuitions of how we treat each other as brothers and sisters. Forget about the extraterrestrial coming, or the space neighbor, but like in space brothers and sisters, like how do we treat each other, and how can we? What does the incarnation mean in our daily lives? Like, does it mean anything if we're not loving each other? And anyways, I see that the alien topic and extraterrestrials, it really does bring to the forefront our priors, like how we project out into the topic our own kind of hang-ups, and can those be worked out in this such a volatile time that we live in. So
yeah, absolutely. Working title for your new documentary?
Oh, I don't know yet. I'm playing around with some things, but it's untitled right now. Yeah.
All right. Tell me, as you're closing this chapter on teaching at the university, what's the number one kind of lesson or thing that you have learned from your students? It's a volatile time, like you said. What have you learned from your students? What have you learned from this time period? What have they taught you?
I think it showed me the importance of so many lessons to take away. One of them was that the importance of teaching, in that in order, sometimes we skim over our if we're interested in a topic and we're reading a lot, and sometimes our comprehension kind of deceives us, because unless you teach it, you really don't know what you know. You have to kind of articulate it in front of people convincingly to actually kind of retain the information. So like, I think I'll bring that forward into anything I do, in any research that I'm doing. Can I teach this thing, and that be a criteria of whether or not I'm actually retaining the information. The second part is that I love teaching. Really, it's that seeing the energy of young filmmakers, and to talk about filmmaking in a Catholic environment, and to talk about it as like a spiritual journey, and to try to not to mince words. Like the market here in filmmaking is really tough. New technologies with like AI and stuff like that. So I'm teaching an AI class, like
wow,
just to show them the tools and how things are changing. They're not going to go back to what they were. Like, what does that mean? Do you have to participate in it, or how will AI affect your workflow and your life as a human, but also as a filmmaker? So for me, it was an experience that seeing young people in this space where they just want to absorb everything, but they're very, very impressionable. I saw like the need to be very responsible, and somehow I never had to be in that situation before at this stage. So like I'm a father of two, and the being a dad, you're growing in relationship to forming other individuals and seeing how much that has to affect your own life. And the same thing with students, but you jump ahead to where they're not quite peers, but they're intellectually, you can talk with them about their deep experiences that they've had. And so yeah, it was a very enriching time. That's all I can say. I'm very grateful. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I bet in a lot of ways, and maybe this is an audacious thought, but in some ways I wonder if this has been sort of a healing experience for you, since as a student, you almost lost your faith, and now being a teacher with these students in an environment that is, warm and encouraging of the arts and conversations, it's I'm sure it must be somewhat cathartic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the gratefulness is God continually wants to heal us, and every chapter of our life can be that. I feel like no, you're right. So I almost went to JP Catholic before I went to seminary. It was that was the toss up. So it's kind of interesting that it came full circle in this stage, and that I could experience that like exactly what you said. I mean, maybe I had never thought that or put that together, but I'm reliving that wound that was created back then in order to heal it, and then to move on. So, but thanks for saying that. It's spot on.
Yeah. And, this is hard faith. Something I love about your journey is, your openness, your honesty. You've experienced loss and grief, and you've also wrestled deeply with your faith. Like you said, even on this podcast, and we've talked about it in person, after attending seminary, like you had this, before you went to seminary, you had this reawakening of your faith. Obviously, you were baptized Catholic, grew up in the church, reawakening of faith, consider becoming a priest, go to seminary, became agnostic, became atheistic, and then rediscovered your faith somehow afterwards. How do you think that journey of mountaintops and valleys, having faith, tangible, living, mountaintop, God is here, he's close, he's real, he hears me, he answers, and he's silent, and he doesn't exist in such a short time period, and I can relate in a lot of ways, but how do you think that has shaped your faith today, how you talk about your faith, your relationship with God, and how does it influence your art?
Yeah, I mean, let me think for a second. Yeah, for me it was that conversions are an ongoing thing. They're meant to happen again and again and again. And they're going to be different at every stage of your life, and this is almost why Gerard was so influential to me, is that he central to his theory is the idea of conversion, that we desire things in our life because we want things that other people have in order to be like them. And this is kind of our default. You see this in children and in all types of culture at the highest levels. And this leads to violence. And what Gerard ultimately gets to is that a reading of the Gospels that show kind of a non-violent way of imitating one who you can't get in rivalry with, which is Jesus Christ, or imitating other Christians who are imitating Christ. So it's a chain of being along this way of imitating, being in the world, knowing that we can't stop wanting what other people want, but can we want in a non-rivalrous way? Can we want in ways that don't destroy us? So bringing up, so I was teaching mimetic theory this quarter, and teaching this to the students. At the same time, my best friend, Anthony D'Ambrosio, is having this meteoric rise
Yeah.
and as a first-time filmmaker.
Yep.
And I'm looking at him, and I'm seeing this the tables turning, like of the like I had brought him into filmmaking, and now he's achieving things that I haven't at this time, and so that envy was very palpable to me. But then obviously that's you have to take stock or inventory of your desires and what's going on. And so I wake up in the middle of the night and be like, he's making a lot of money, and I'm struggling to make anything on a teacher's salary, and not, so the spiritual dimension is going on, the psychological dimension, but having Gerard as kind of a guide here. I was reading the story of the blind beggar who calls out to Christ, and there's two things here. So there's a passage that Jesus, I think it's in John, but he's talking about how if the light, the eyes are the light of the body, and if the light in you is dark, how dark is that light? So it's referencing an older idea of vision, in which light isn't this thing that it's this exterior to you, but it's actually a projection outward. It's like as if your attention on things actually is a type of has a transfiguring effect on the world.
Yes.
And so there's the lumen Christi, which is the light of Christ, and then there's the imitation of that light, the dark light that Jesus is talking about, or the Lucifer, the Luciferian light, so the light bearer. And Lucifer wants to project dark light into the world so that what you see is an idol. It transfigures human beings to either be angels so far above you that you can't attain them, or bestial in the ways that you are above them and you treat them in a domineering way. So Lucifer wants basically that this dark light reflects back to you, so either you hate yourself in light of the angel that you've transfigured, or you have this ego that in narcissism that you will end up treating people as objects. So that's the point of the Luciferian light, is that the actual way in which we see people changes, and it's not Christ's light. So in the story of the blind beggar, he's calling out, and it's kind of like this Gerardian situation. It's a crowd of Jesus' disciples are kind of like, don't go over there. There's this blind beggar calling, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And first, Jesus, the disciples say, don't bother him. And then Jesus says, bring him to me. So the disciples now switch their attitude, and they bring the blind beggar, and Jesus stands, in front of him and says, what do you want? And the blind beggar says, I want to see. And for me, it was first how the spiritual attack of envy is so immediate that you need a counter measure, like a spiritual practice. So to identify yourself as the blind beggar, to not allow the Luciferian light to exit and transform the world. So you say, Lord Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. It's a type of spell, exorcism, and the ways in which the gospel present to us words, in a ritual way that we kind of combat the spiritual attack of envy.
Yeah.
And then you're identifying with the blind beggar. You're refusing to see. You're not allowing sin. If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. So you become blind, and until you're blind to the Luciferian light that wants to trap you and to make you feel bad about yourself, until you blind yourself to that, Christ can't come close to you and ask you, what do you want? And then finally, when you're there in that moment, you have to be blind. You have to be identified with the blind beggar. And then when you open your eyes, whenever that happens, whenever God chooses to heal that wound in you, you'll see the face of God. So the next time your eyes are open to the world, it is the face of God. It's not Christ, physically in front of you. in a vision or something like that. It is your brothers and sisters seeing with the light of Christ.
Yeah.
The true way of seeing. And so that was kind of like my meditation and teaching mimetic theory, and seeing Anthony's film do really well. And I was liberated from this evil spirit of envy. And so we had this great encounter. We went to it was called the Napa conference, and he was showing his film there. I hadn't seen him like in a year. I'm not on social media, so again, probably because I'm too envious and can't, see other people successful. I'm not a Luddite or anything. I have this proclivity. But I got to see him, and there's like and I got to kind of express all these ways in which I've grown through that experience. And then we got to dance together because there's a live band, and it felt like brothers. It felt like non-rivalrous ways in which Catholic filmmakers or Christian filmmakers should treat one another and should see one another as not as rivals, because there's plenty of films to be made, and only you can make the films that you need to be making, and that's not rivalrous. You need to be cheering for everyone in this space, and be very careful of the spirit of spirit of envy, spirit of rivalry. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.
Man, thank you, Sam. That is such a good word. And it is so easy to be envious, and it is a demonic spirit. It is something that you have to take seriously. I love that story. What a great note to end on. Thank you, Sam. If audiences, I know you're not on social media, but if audiences want to follow along on your journey, how can they do that?
Yeah, just you can email me. You can put my email there. It's fine. But also, I want to see other people to see the Rene Girard film. So sending them that link, and I like to see the comments in YouTube and see that grow. So
awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Do you have a website or anything that people can go to at this?
Yeah, I think it's glassdarklyfilms.com might have a contact page, but also the thingshidden.movie. Yeah.
Thingshidden.movie. Brilliant. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on to the Hard Faith podcast. Look forward to your next documentary and following along on your journey. Thank you for the time today.
Yeah, and thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks so much for listening to the Hard Faith podcast. Please subscribe and share. Visit hardfaith.org to learn more.